No, just use syrup. You buy these. Make license.
What are you doing? Don't do that.
Look at that. Looks like Jethro Tull's signature, doesn't
I brought the 12 along.
I knew.
No, it was like yesterday. I couldn't get it away. A year and a half to use it. Which I agree. But I've got your toe stick thing. 39 years ago.
No, that's the Chris
Oh, all right. So we all listen to
Oh, thank you. I'm a little lumpier.
But we enjoy that. I also told them that their diner light cost should be restricted at the single night frame. So like the Texas Eagle could have it, and the Capital Limited could have it.
New Orleans, that's the
City of New Orleans could have it. But anything that goes 2 nights, forget it, because passengers need room to spread out.
Yeah, exactly. The initial terminal.
Yeah, they were very receptive to my ideas. Oh, Mr. Parker has made it. He's always got his camera in hand. He takes such good people pictures. I can't take good people pictures. He does. Sir, you got the wrong color shirt on. You got
I've got to get one. I've got to get one.
see that gentleman right there.
Okay.
No round shirts on the front.
Okay. All right.
We never could explain the concept of a rail fanning where you just ride the train and have a good time at the end of the line and ride it back. You don't ride it to go any place. The ride is the fun.
Yeah, the ride is the fun thing. I mean, it's just like when we all went to Crush-and-Berry. You remember that? The second time you guys did that trip, I was on it. And it was like people said, "What'd you do this weekend?" I went to Crush-and-Berry. And they go, "Where?"
Yeah,
Crush-and-Berry, out on the high desert.
that was the very first fan trip I was ever on. It was the first trip that PRS ran out to Cushenberry.
Yeah.
They were supposed to run a Las Vegas excursion with the Aero train, and it was so unreliable that UP pulled the plug on it. And I guess, I don't know how it came together that the Santa Fe had just opened the line and they were willing to substitute. Was that the trip ran on a Sunday, and the Thursday before was the first official trip when Santa Fe and all the officials had gone out to Cushenberry. So that was a great trip.
That's more gooder.
Gooder. I like it.
Because our train club is also meeting here tonight. We're the module train club of Orange County. So we're meeting here, and it's only by happenstance we happen to run across here. So that makes it a doubly important night. Good luck.
Oh, I will.
Maybe we'll call BNSF and tell them to stop the
Stop the train. Here we go.
Have a good trip.
Somebody has a LaGuardia or bus sticker for the back.
I don't know.
Oops, sorry. by accident. 30 miles of 30 or 31? This is the Million Miles trip. Hey, Dave Abbott.
Mile trip?
Hey, Dave.
Chris.
Chris is good. By accident, he and Barbara.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, we're in New Mexico now, and we're about 45 minutes away from Albuquerque, where we're all going to be able to get off for about an hour. So we're having an excellent trip, and that's about it.
What was Trick looking at tonight? Another day in train paradise.
Yep.
Now what was Trick did you see that one car?
Got the Russian over there? Oh, it's Anton?
Anton couldn't figure out when to come to dinner. I mean, the breakfast this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, they even botched your name two different ways, didn't they?
Did you hear it once or?
I just heard it the one time.
Yeah,
First time you were.
The guy's like, you know, I called you 4 times, and I'm just like, I don't know what it
Well, what did he call you?
You told me Anto. I heard him once call me Anto, and I never.
Anto. Oh yes. Don't be arigato, Mr. Anto.
They called you 3 times, and I heard the first two times they had variations of your name. The third time they got it right.
We told him you were on a cab trying to catch the train.
Yeah.
Some real fans just don't have normal names, you know? Like Joe and Bob and Bill
And Biff.
and Biff.
Oh, I am Biff, the train guy. We're gonna go the scenic way today.
You're actually going a different way?
Well, what happens is the line split here, and that line will go, so we'll probably see a bunch of freight trains on that one when we go the long way. They'll do that when we're running early.
We're gonna get an outfit. It's pretty cool.
Early.
We're going to be in Albuquerque a long time, I guess.
That's what the computer said.
The actual restaurant, this is a little bit pricey. I got to pick something here. I'm
Oh,
looking
at the rail restaurant?
No, not the rail.
Well, more than that.
So I pick out like a $9 sandwich, you know, and a glass of water, you know. I look over, what's the 16-year-old guy? This hunking piece of beef this big, this thick. He's got to
Following by example.
give me the extra salad with it, and then the dessert and everything. He got out of there for what, $40?
Let's get it.
You say you want to borrow money from? I want to borrow
I
money
have
from
4,000.
them.
I was going to say, how do you think you can afford that? Well, you can use it. I have 4,000 minutes.
From all the people that
Right now,
borrow?
there's no coverage.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
He's broken a lot of legs.
It's the best way to make money I know of is landing.
Alright, let's see what's that one on it got over there. That one's got
Auto train.
that's got a NNS unit on it.
Got a couple locomotives up front.
Yeah, there's the next one down there. See how they're all backed up waiting for us to go by.
If that was UP, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, if this is UP, the dispatcher would have put us right behind that last one.
There's no sightings
it's
over there,
saying,
huh?
You can wait your turn.
There's no sightings over there, Chris?
No. This is very common.
Supposedly, isn't that what Vermont is starting to fix?
Yeah.
You would have thought if they were planning this ahead of time, if they could see ahead of time, they would have put us over there, shorter route.
It doesn't cost us that long because we can go track speed.
You know, I just heard something that it's another day in
We're right here in Albuquerque during our layover, and we're going to have a rail runner train come by in a minute. It's going to blast its horn to scare everybody off of the platform. And And once that happens, then be our turn to get out of here, probably on time if they fix the toilets in the next car, which I don't see anybody working on.
This one go all the way through then, or?
Yeah, this one goes through the mid-range. It starts here, goes to Bernalillo, comes back to the limb.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Make sure I said hello.
Say hello back.
I'll do that next time I talk to you.
That's Chris Guenzler, Million Mile Man.
Oh, you're the Million Miler, huh? Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Geez, if I'd known there was a reward for that, I'd have started adding that up 30 years ago.
T-shirts.
I would have got a T-shirt. Did I buy one of those from you for
No, you
Carol?
can have one. I'll have to give that to
Thanks.
Carol.
I'll give it to Carol.
After all, you did come down to the train to see us.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
So there.
See us to work.
I'm going to take you all the way to Lahaina. If you
Yeah,
have
that's
any problems,
cool.
let me know.
Problems on the train?
Imagine that. Anybody here mechanical so we can work on these toilets? All right,
Well, I used
have
to
a great day.
I used to shovel a lot of that,
Yeah,
but not
thanks.
the
Bye-bye.
same consistency.
Hey, George, here. I'm going to volunteer in my mechanical.
Yes.
Toilets are always beneath me.
Put 'em.
So how did you hook up with train web?
Well, Train Web happened very, I used to go up and visit, I knew Steve from the San Diego Club. And it was a club that Richard Hamilton, who does Let's Talk Trains, used to be we used to take trips together and meet at various stations and have lunch. And so I met Steve there. And occasionally I would come up to the Train Web offices, and in there, Ray Burns, who you guys will meet tomorrow, in fact, he kept on saying, Chris, why don't you move your website to Train Web? And every time I came into that office, he would say that, and then he would say, there's so much we could do with you if you did. Well, my website had been on trainorders.com, and trainorders.com had been very good to me, although it got to the point where I wanted to start adding pictures to the stories. All the stories up to that time had no pictures in them. And then my mom, for Christmas, got me an Epson scanner that could do slides. I have a huge slide collection. So when I made that point, I said, Todd, can you give me any more space? And he said, no. And I said, Todd, I'm going to move my website to Train Web. And he said, oh, I can understand why. And just keep the link you have from us to that website, and I'll be happy. So we did that. So then Train Web gives me unlimited space, and that's why there's like 220 some stories on that website now.
So it's been very useful.
It's been very useful, and I've done a lot of great stories and trips for Train Web. They've sent me to a lot of great places, including last month at the Beach Grove shops.
Tell me some of the places that you've been to.
Okay, well, I've been to every mile of the Amtrak system at least twice, and because of Milwaukee Road 261 trip that we took, it's a 484 steam engine trip we took. We went from North Kansas City to Lincoln one day, and then the next day we went to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Because I got South Dakota on my rail map. That's the Milwaukee Road 261. Then that would have just left Alaska, which I went up and did the Alaskan Railroad. And then that would have then left the last state, which would have been Hawaii. And I flew to Hawaii, and then I did the Hawaiian Railroad Society's train on Oahu. So that took care of all the 50 states. And then I've also done every mile up in Canada. So that means I've been to all but 2 of the Canadian provinces. I've been to such places as Prince George, Prince Rupert, in British Columbia, Vancouver, of course, Vancouver Island, Edmonton, Alberta, Calgary, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, spent some time in Winnipeg, went up to the Paw, went up to Lynn Lake, which was the coldest place I've ever been. When I got off the train there, it was at minus 42 degrees C. Then I came back to the Paw, and then went up to Churchill, where it was a balmy minus 25 degrees C. Spent some time there, and then of course I've been to Toronto, I've been to Windsor, I've been to Ottawa, I've been to Montreal, I've been to Jonquière, I've been to Senneterre, I've been to Quebec City, Montreal, Gaspé, Halifax, and Sydney. So that takes care of Canada. And then down in Mexico, I've done Copper Canyon 5.5 times. And then other places was a destination Octozory trip, and a trip on the Boston Chihuahua. And what was unique about that, we were the last train ever to run on that track. So some of the places I've been. The Million Mile thing happened in steps. Okay, the first thing that happened for me was to ride the entire Amtrak system. Well, between the time I started to set that goal, I became sober. So then my counselor said, you got to set some goals. So I said, okay, I'll go ride the entire Amtrak system. She said, that has nothing to do with drinking. So I quickly said, well, how about if I go back through every state I ever drank in? And she said, okay, you could do that. That has something to do with drinking. So in the process of finishing up the Amtrak system, of which 37 states I drank in, I would have to reclaim those anyway. And it was the rest of them I hadn't drank in. Plus there were all these routes basically in the Northeast I had never done. I then completed the Amtrak system on August 18, 1994, I think. No, it would have been 96. So then, once I did that, then it was just to finish up all the Amtrak routes I had drunk on. And that became, over time, it became the northern states, which I finished in December. And then a fall trip I did later on, where I went down. I had 2 pieces to do. I had from Kansas City to St. Louis, and I had from Winter Park, Florida down to Miami. Well, as it turned out, I finished that on my day 1000th of my sobriety. To reward myself for finishing, I then booked a trip up the East Coast, up to New York, and then I took the Maple Leaf to see the trees in their fall colors, which was an incredible experience, being that I live in California where we have 2 seasons, fire season, mudslide season. Everybody else has 4 seasons. So when I then set that goal, then I had now finished riding the entire Amtrak system sober. Well, since I did that, then it was now, okay, let's go to Canada and ride all the miles in Canada. Well, I had gone across Canada back in 1991 from Vancouver to Halifax and back. So now that became reclaiming Canada for my sobriety, plus then adding all the new routes. So over a period of 2 years, I then did every route in Canada, including finishing it right after my dad had passed on, so I never got to see the pictures of that trip, where we went up on the Algoma Central, and I ended up getting a cab ride through Ogawa Canyon. Right here was the spot, and we came up, and the engineer laid on the horn for about a minute as we passed through, and that was me finishing Canada with just me, the engineer, and the fireman, and nothing. So it was quick. So then after I had finished Canada, it was then time to finish doing the 50 states. Well, when I did originally went across Canada, that took care of Maine. At that point, Amtrak didn't serve Maine. So I did Maine, had done Maine, so that left Oklahoma. Well, my friend Bonnie Isbell had moved to Oklahoma City. They kept on saying, Chris, would you come visit me? And I said, well, when your state finally gets a train, I'll come and visit you. And of course, they finally got the Heartland Flyer. So on the end of one of those Canadian trips, I went to Oklahoma. That then left Alaska and Hawaii.
Have your attention, please. We are in a sidetrack here. Have a delay here.
Carl Morrison, Train Web, and we're honoring Chris Guenzler on his 1,000,000th mile. Have you met Chris? Have you known Chris a while?
I've known Chris about 10 years.
Up. So I got 7 up back there, but for the important occasions like almost getting to the top of Pikes Peak, breaking your 1,000,000 mile, you want to drink a Coca-Cola because it's soothing and it refreshes. Let's sell that to Coca-Cola, shall we?
Exactly.
Now this is the Missouri River bottom country here. That will pass. We'll go through a switch that takes us to single track, and from there then we will go out onto the bridge. And I know that because I just did this 2 weeks ago. So we practiced.
Yeah.
Is that why you're such an expert?
Yeah, see, I was at the back of the train taking pictures, knowing I could not. Yeah, we've got to go down.
So we're not stopping, stepping outside, someone falling off the bridge?
Don't think so.
Carrollton,
Just didn't want to hear that.
Hardin, the bridge is right there.
Supposedly somebody out there picture the train while it's going over the bridge.
Okay.
He's gonna call me when he gets there.
All right, it's right.
We haven't gone over.
Pork?
No, down on the river.
Okay, so right down here? Yeah, zoom in there. All right.
Alright. Back. Okay. Bioman says Coca-Cola, and it's the one in a red can. It says Coca-Cola Classic, not Vanilla
These are
Cola.
only limited edition, but the idea behind the front logo was that if Chris wanted to do more shirts, then it's always possible. But the map's 100, that's it.
How you feeling, Chris? Excited?
Yeah,
Special limited edition.
almost there.
I
The dress
So we can find a mile so we know where we are.
and use Photoshop to merge them together on one sheet. Biggest spread that you can highlight all the lines he's on.
I don't know where the hell it is, but
Good idea, John.
There.
oh yeah, I know that bridge. Now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was with you. I remember doing that. That was on the Amazing Race, right?
It'd be a little hard to get it with that sound.
That bridge without the button.
Tom, hockey jersey?
Yeah.
Yeah, just hand it, give it to me now, and I'll just put it on the seat. I'll put it on. How's that?
Okay.
That way you can take your pictures. And... Built in probably 1885. That still stands. Okay, now we're going to make the turn here at East Sibley. We're on the single track. Now we're on the one of the biggest bottlenecks on the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad. There's the bridge. When we get to the middle of that second span, that is the moment.
I'm ready with your whistles.
I need another hand. Any genetic scientists?
We're here.
Are you going to tell us the significance of a hockey jersey?
Okay. 1, 2, 3, right now.
Take those lines.
1 million.
Give me that again.
1 million.
All right.
At the appropriate spot at milepost 425.5. We have now passed 1 million rail miles ridden. Hoorah.
Yay.
And this Coke's for all of you.
Still on the bridge, huh?
Take another sip of that Coke.
Okay.
Live it up.
You only live once, go for the gusto.
Chris Guenzler, you just made your 1 million mile mark. Where are you headed?
The Depot Inn in La Plata. Not Disneyland. It costs too much.
And the train keeps going around to the same place at Disneyland.
Yeah.
I like to go different places. Is that right?
It's a Mickey Mouse place.
Well, we're right near the home of Disney.
Yeah, we'll go through Marceline here in about 25 minutes.
Missouri.
Yeah, well, it's going to be Missouri today since it's going to be a nice day. When you come here and it's 18 degrees, that's misery. And when you come here and it's 98 degrees with 98% humidity, it's misery. East Sibley, there you go. Well, that was a fun million miles. Shall we do another one?
You're the only man that can answer that.
Yeah, I think so.
What are your plans?
I think maybe another million.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What it says on the front of the shirt, and counting.
And counting, yeah. We won't have to make new shirts.
Now, see, I asked him about
Oh,
that.
see? We couldn't have stopped. There was one of their freight trains.
I asked him about that at least twice on the trip. I said, does that mean you're going to keep going? He denied that he wasn't. Now you heard it. It's
Yeah, I wasn't going to make an official announcement until we actually did it. Just in case we didn't get here. Ladies and gentlemen, the Southwest Chief will terminate in Kansas City and you will be bused to your destination. No, we're not. No, it wouldn't. Yeah. It would have been new plan. We're all going to get on the Ann Rutledge and go to Jefferson City. Won't be any big bridge, but we'll still get the miles that way.
I'd have just hopped a BNSF freight if I was you.
If there's a derailment, how are you going to do that?
Oh, a derailment. I didn't hear that part.
No, I had.
Well, you're now 2 miles into your next million.
Yeah, I had visions though. No, I'm seriously about. Okay, we come to Kansas City and then they'll go. BNSF had a freight train derailment, so we're going to route you via Quincy. And it would have been, well, that's cool. That'd be new mileage. And that would connect my miles. But then the Depot Inn would have to drive to Quincy to pick us all up. The one I did want to have happen is the old Trinidad up to Puebla and over, because I would have to figure that all out and we would have been celebrating at about 5 o'clock in the morning on the other side of Kansas City. And no, I planned it here so we could all get some sleep. Or a lot of bouncing last night.
What's the hockey shirt say?
No, you want it says the same thing the t-shirt says.
Only in
a condensed version. Then on the back of it.
Oh, 1 million. All right. We're going to get that.
Yeah, everybody take that. I'll stand here.
Chris, keep your pants on.
Yeah, don't take your pants off. That's all right.
This would be the two don't do it.
We don't want to see.
Well, hold it, Steve. Where's my? I gotta ask you this. How come we don't have any train web underwear? Now let me explain this, Steve.
His wife's here.
We could have TW on the front and TW on both cheeks.
How about T on one cheek and W on the
That
other?
could work. And that could be on your adult gifts on trainparty.com.
Carol Walker from Train Travel Group. She's online.
Oh.
If we keep her on there.
Hi, Carol.
Party over here.
Yeah, we just passed it moments ago. Well, thanks, Carol. It would have been at 8:26
And counting.
Central Time. And yes, there's lots of pictures taken. Trust me. I have a hockey jersey on now that says 1 million on the back of it. Yeah. Well, we wish you were here. Okay. You got it. Thanks, Carol. Take care.
6:30 back there.
Oh, Steve. Matt Meltzer told me to say hi to everybody. He wanted to make it, but he couldn't get away. He sent me an email on Thursday. And I said I would tell him that I'd say it at the appropriate time.
Who was that that just called?
Carol from the Train Riders Group.
You want to break up with me?
Yeah.
My friend Carol Larson's somebody's run a lot of travel on tour. Yeah.
Mind that we stalk you a little bit?
Yeah, stalking. It's a good thing. Yes, you may blow your whistle. Yes, indeed. Hi. You pass out cards.
So where was it?
The bridge.
Bridge?
The middle of the bridge. The middle of the deck.
Cool. Very good.
Well, we passed it. Yeah.
Wait.
There we go.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
There you go. Have a card.
Oh, thank you.
You'll be able to read about it once I write the story.
Okay.
Shake hands. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good morning. Yeah, we just passed it, so there you go. You'll be able to read all about it in about a week or so when I get home.
You are, well, congratulations. Wow. A young million mile man.
Yes, a young
too.
million
Wow.
mile. You got a new shirt.
That's cool. Thank you. Wow, train rep, that's great. Where do you live?
Santa Ana, California.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm a California boy.
Oh, wow.
No wonder you ride this so much. Get out of horrible weather.
That's right. California's horrible. You have 2 seasons. Fire season and mudslides. Don't move there.
Are you going to play the game or are you going to keep getting my cards?
miles on the train.
Give a round of applause.
All right.
Yeah, for Chris.
There you go, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have a card you can read about it.
Fantastic.
I lost sound, dude.
Oh, we're on TV.
Not anymore. He's the $1 million man.
Yeah, Million Mile Man. And we're at the back of the train. And guess what? We're on the North Fork and Southern because over there's the B and SF main line, which is cool. Don't you love these clean windows?
$1 million miles?
Million miles.
$1 million miles on this train.
Trains all over North America.
On Amtrak.
Amtrak, Canadian Rail, Mexican, some stuff in Mexico.
Congratulations.
All over the place.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Way to
Look at that big bridge back there. We passed it. And if you go to trainweb.com, or here, who's the leader here?
I am.
Hey, aha! There you go.
Thank you so much.
Share that. That's my website. It's got 200 stories of all of this and more to come.
Thanks.
1 million miles on the
Yeah,
train.
two gold whistles.
1 million miles.
1 million.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
And how long?
Oh, hi.
Started in how high was it? No. Started in 1980. When I got myself sober in 1995, I had 158,000. So in the last 12 years,
It's a world record.
there was a guy named Arthur Frimbo. That was his pen name. His real name was E.H. Whitaker. He wrote for the New Yorker magazine. He had 2.4 million miles. But he did it in the 40s and 50s when there were trains running all over America. I'm limited to what Amtrak has, or where else I can find to run trains. I have read his book, and in his book, I can only find that he went to 46 states. I've been to all 50.
All right.
And I've ridden a train in all 50. Yeah, cool, very good. But, yeah. There's a train on there's 3 trains in Hawaii. There's the Hawaiian Railroad Society on Oahu. There's the sugarcane train, the Lahaina Kanapana Pacific now. That's on Maui. And there's a little new train on the Big Island.
How often do you ride on the train?
Almost daily. Yeah. Yeah, it works out.
That's fun. You can be healthy.
Keeps me out of trouble. And plus I get to meet a bunch of neat people like you.
Oh, it's not that neat. Down there. Well, I don't know. We already had a freight train, so I would think this is it.
It's funny. Can you see it for me?
What's a beautiful day. Oh, well, we're on it.
Chris is getting on. Talking to everybody. See you getting on.
Right.
Good. Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I think you should. It's a great town. And it's a very unique town in America. I mean, where else can I get off the train to Fire performed on drums? Without Carl Palmer playing on it. All right. Well, now what?
We head to the point.
Let's head to the point.
Go.
Hey, congratulations. Thanks,
Good
Bob.
job there, drummer.
How you feeling?
How you?
I'm good.
What, you 1 million?
Yeah, good. Hello.
Larry, take it over to the truck.
Chris, meet some of yourself. Nice to meet you. Okay, right.
Yeah. He's feeling slighted.
Well, no, he was the one who got me finally to switch the website to trainweb.com years ago.
Yeah.
And I'd come up to visit them, and every time I went in there, he said, Chris, when are you going to move your website to trainweb.com? Chris, when are you going to move your... So I finally did it to get you off my back. Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Well, look, we're ready to go.
Everybody come to the lookout.
Oh, I'm glad you came. We have such a beautiful day.
Okay, we're coming.
Yeah, we put
You want to put your bag back here, hang on to it, okay? Hop in.
Cool. You sorry you decided to grab that one?
Yeah, did you have a good trip out? Which one did you take out? Roll.
It's only a million miles.
We can come with us. We can come with me. No, raise van. We'll go in raise van. Okay?
Are those guys taking care of us getting on the bus?
No, they will be on raise van.
We're in raise van.
Okay, so I guess everybody.
So we're gonna go.
Hey Chris,
All right.
were you expecting those drums?
No.
No.
I knew nothing about what was going on when we got here.
So you're surprised?
I was completely surprised. I did not expect drums. And I like drums.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm very musically inclined, so that fire piece was very appropriate.
Tell that from your travel logs.
Oh, yeah.
What about the senator being there?
That I knew about. He does try to inform me of everything.
One of them's here.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Have you sort of reconsidered your choice of shoes for today?
Yeah, so I didn't realize it was going to be the excursion that it is turned into.
Alright, where's the freight train I ordered?
This is your room for this weekend. Your patio.
Will be up next time.
I missed it. Did you see one?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Hey, you need that tape?
Yeah, can I get it?
Yeah, they put all the bags in the back of the.
That's Mark Beckley, all right.
We'll get it as soon as.
Nice seeing you. Thanks for the nice job you did at the Grove.
Oh yeah, not a problem.
It was
The
great.
new was so just open and true story.
Yeah.
When we got in the car afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
I told Chris, don't drive. Because I was still in shock from being in that place. That place is incredible.
Oh, it's really do amazing work.
And all the work they do is totally, I mean, it's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen.
It's really a lost art doing that kind of work.
Yes, it is.
Steel.
Because
So-
there's not maybe one other place in North America that does it.
Well, we do it at Bear.
Yeah.
But we're doing it with the Amfleet equipment, which is not quite as impressive looking in terms of scale.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but they do great work.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
And oh, no problem. Glad you did it. Now, if someone wants to know what the Grove looks like,
No.
I would send them to the website.
Yeah.
And Lou's a good guy.
No, he really is.
And he's proud of the work his folks do.
And the nice thing was when Lou took us into the shops, he had each of the shop foremen tell us about their shops. You know, it was really fascinating.
Well, if you see what those locomotives look like when they come in here,
oh, I know.
You might have seen several. I really would prefer not to see those ones at the end, but
yeah.
That are still out in the yard. But
now, are the ones way out in back, are those the ones from Illinois?
No, those aren't Bourbonnais.
Okay. Somebody asked me, and I go, I don't know.
No, I believe that was in September of 2001, either in Utah or Idaho.
Okay.
But the Bourbonnais stuff's mostly gone. Some of the cars in the far back are from Bourbonnais.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you went all the way back to the backyard.
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw my favorite Surfliner cab car that had some major problems taking
So
it.
I think that one is still fixable.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said, given time, they can fix it.
But I think it was borderline on what the cost of repair was and what the value of the car was.
And versus maybe getting a replacement car for it, yeah.
But
you know, I've been riding those Beach Grove cars for years, and it was finally good to go in. The one thing I definitely did when I thanked everybody in there for the work they did.
Because they don't get a lot of that.
No, they don't.
But they don't get a lot of chance to ride either.
No, they don't.
Okay, Barbara is going to do the unveiling. Okay, Barbara Spinko is one of the owners of TrainWeb. This observation point, this is a temporary observation point, but this will always be part of the rail resort. And today you have witnessed the unveiling of the observation point, and it's called the Chris Guenzler Million Mile Observation Point. Lookout point, I'm sorry.
Well, my last trip through here, I shot a picture of it from the train, so it's the first picture ever shot of it from the train looking at it.
I might add that this was Stephen Barbara's idea.
He stands alone on the platform looking for the evening train. He rides towards life to get back with the whiskey took from him. Well, he used to tip the bottle till it was no longer his friend. Every night it would end the way that it began. 1,000,000 miles on an Amtrak train. The depot in at the destination's in. 1,000,000 miles on an Amtrak train. Another night, another ride. Get back his life again. Well, your eyes for the friends he's found he sees across this land. They're all there to help him get back on the tracks again. Well, life on the bottle is a train wreck, my friend. Chris Guenzler found the answer on the rails across this land. 1,000,000 miles on an Amtrak train. Depot in at the destination's in. 1,000,000 miles on an Amtrak train. Another night, another ride. Get back his life again. Well, now he acts as track historian, a waiter and a friend. He could tell you of the tragedies and the beauty of this land. The sweet smell of other baking, well, it brings him home again. The story that I'll tell you is how he beat the devil's hand. 1,000,000 miles on an Amtrak train. Depot in at the destination's in. 1,000,000 miles on an Amtrak train. If Trevor would be proud of how he found redemption's in. Travel, no more tracks to go. The depot inn is waiting with a room that's sure to please, and a lot of friends to meet him, set his heart at ease. 1,000,000 miles on an Amtrak train, the depot inn at the destination's inn. 1,000,000 miles on an Amtrak train, another night, another ride. Get back his life again.
Okay, next we have our city mayor, Larry Herring.
On behalf of the La Plata City Council and the residents of the city, I would like to welcome each of you to this ceremony, which commemorates a span of time and a very interesting story. A special welcome back to Chris Guenzler and his California friends, including Steve Grandy and Barbara Sapenko, owners of Train Web and Train Party. Also like to recognize Senator Bill Stouffer, who's here, and Tom Shively, Representative Shively. Of course, we have a cult hero with us, Anton Lazaro. Last I saw him, he was behind the platform here. He's the guy who paid $200 to get from Fullerton to San Bernardino, and his story was in the La Plata Home Press. Chris, all of you are thrilled. We are all thrilled that you chose La Plata as the final leg of your Million Miles Odyssey on Amtrak. Those of us who call La Plata home are proud of our railroad heritage, and we enthusiastically support the railroad-related developments of Depot Inn, Train Web, and Train Party, and we look to the future to a successful railroad resort and its impact on La Plata and Northeast Missouri. Chris, if you'll please step forward. The City of La Plata wishes to recognize your achievement with a proclamation, and I am pleased to read it and then present it to you. I'm going to read from this and present over here. Okay. That's all right.
I love improvisation.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas the City of La Plata, Missouri has a long and storied history with railroads and train traffic, and whereas in time the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe line moved east-west and the Wabash line moved north-south with daily stops in our city, and whereas now Amtrak line stops in La Plata, in Missouri, all aboard is only heard here in Kansas City. I don't want John Cullum critiquing my all aboard. And whereas a flurry of train-related activity has recently developed in our city, and whereas the City of La Plata boasts the Depot Inn, Train Web, Train Party, and the widely anticipated railroad resort, and whereas today along comes Mr. Chris Guenzler riding the eastbound Amtrak, and as he alights at station platform, well, in show business, timing is everything. I'll pick it up again at the last whereas. Today along comes Mr. Chris Guenzler riding the eastbound Amtrak. And as he alights at station platform to rousing applause, 1 million Amtrak miles a reality. Now therefore I, Larry Herring, Mayor of the City of La Plata, along with the City of La Plata Council and citizens of La Plata do hereby proclaim April 27th, 2007, Million Miles Day. Congratulations. There you are, my friend.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
Next, we're going to offer the mic to a very special guest. He's an Amtrak executive, and his name is Mark Magalari. Thanks for coming out this morning. It's my second trip to La Plata in less than a year. I was at the red, white, and blue building across the way for the Train Web event when that building was first opened. And we stayed last night at the Depot Inn and Suites, which I highly recommend, especially if the girlfriend talks you into the Pullman suite, which she's paying the difference for. The company is only paying for the regular room. So I want to keep traveling and not get in trouble. I'm here to present a letter from Amtrak President and CEO Alex Kumont that reads like this. First, Chris, allow us at Amtrak to thank you for being such a regular customer that according to reports you have ridden every mile of our system and are completing 1 million miles of rail travel. Further, several of us have read your account of turning to sobriety and the role of the railroad in your adoption of an alcohol-free lifestyle. It's an inspirational story that should be read by many. Please view this letter and our participation in today's event as congratulations for making a life-saving choice by acknowledging alcohol has no place in your future and for taking our Amtrak trains. Signed, Alex Kumont, President and Chief Executive Officer. Chris, thanks again. Do we have another presentation award? Somebody out there? Okay, well, we do have one for the, and it's going to be our manager of the Depot Inn and Suites, and Maria Snodgrass.
Short girl. I just want to thank everyone for coming today, and congratulations to Chris on his journey. And Chris, I just want to say that this may be the end of your goal of 1 million mile, but it's the beginning of the journey of your life and continuing of, so just keep it going. And we just wanted to present this to you. This is a glass etching of the lookout point, and it does say the Chris Guenzler Million Mile Lookout Point, La Plata, Missouri. So, congratulations.
Is Anton Lazaro out there?
Yep.
Did you have something that you wanted to present, or you want to wait?
Wait.
Okay. Okay. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you for everybody coming out. I mean, this all got started because my brother, the Amtrak agent, moved to, his wife wanted to move to San Luis Obispo. He was in the Los Angeles area, and unfortunately that was out of their seniority district. So to move up there, he had to lose his seniority for 5 years. To do that, he did some research and figured he could hold a job in lovely Pocatello, Idaho. So my brother and his wife moved up there, and at which time, about a month later, he said, Chris, why don't you come up to visit? And I said, well, how? And he said, take the train. I go, what? And he said, well, take the train. You'll take the train from Los Angeles up to Ogden, Utah. I'll drive down and get you, and then I'll come back. And if you read that bottom story on the website, that is why this whole thing started. And what basically happened was the eastbound trip, when we got to Barstow, we got the engineer off of the Union Pacific fastest piggyback train, and he took the little Amfleet Desert Wind train and would accelerate in and out of the curves. And that train got to Las Vegas 45 minutes early, and I was very impressed. When we came back, we got outside of Las Vegas about 15 minutes, and the entire air conditioning went out on the train. So, me being what I've basically got on now, a t-shirt and shorts, those Amfleet cars really start inside, the temperature went off, and of course me being who I am, I took off my shirt. Well then, that started all the men in the car to do the exact same thing. There was this one big-chested woman who stood up and said, if you can do that, I can do this. She took her top off. Then she told the other women in the car, come on girls, we can do this too. So they all did. So then the males in the car, the one guy stands up, well, if you can do that, I can do this. He takes off his pants. Then he says, come on guys, you can do it too. So they all take off their pants. Well, then our big-chested woman stands up again. Well, if you can do that, I can do this. And off it came. So now you have this entire car of people in their underpants and bras. So I'm looking around going, this is pretty cool. And then you had two Union Pacific crews, and it was a very high job on the seniority, so these guys had probably been on the railroad for about 150 years between them. He comes walking in the car and he just goes, you're violating ICC rule, put your clothes on. And then it became, cool down the car, cool down the car, cool down the car. So then he went and got the other one. And he comes in and says, you all put your clothes right on right now, or I'm going to throw you all off the train. And the people then said, that would be cooler. So the train went like that to Barstow. So we get to Barstow and they switched to BNSF crew. And it was a crew a job nobody in their right mind wanted, because you would have to go from LA, spend the night in exciting Barstow, California, and take the train back the next day. So it was a job that you could take it with no seniority on the railroad. So we had these two young kids. So they get on the train. And the first one comes on and he says, you're violating. And we go, we know, cool down the train. So he went and got his older brother, who might have had maybe a year more seniority than he did. And he came in and he said, ladies and gentlemen, first I'd like to apologize for the condition of this train. I think I have an idea how we can cool down this train. But you're all going to have to do one thing, and that is stay in your seats. So if you can all do that, I think we can cool down this train. So the train's going 79 miles an hour towards Victorville. Their plan was to open every side door on the Amfleet cars to create a draft to force out the hot air. When they opened the back door of the train and that breeze started to come through that train, those people couldn't put their clothes on fast enough. Then once they got the train cooled down, he then comes back on the PA and goes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. You may now all go to the cafe car and get your complimentary beverages. Now, if you would have had a trip like that, wouldn't you want to come back? But anyway, I just want to thank everybody here for coming out today. It's been an incredible day so far, and I think it's going to keep getting better, so thank you.
We do have another presentation.
Although I don't think I have a story that can top that.
Who does?
I don't have a speech prepared, but I did get some for you, Chris. Congratulations. It's a plaque. It says, presented to Chris Guenzler in recognition of 1 million rail passenger miles, April 27, 2007, Amtrak train number 4, the Southwest Chief. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I would like to announce that we have a special guest here, and he's came up from Jefferson City. I know he's very busy, but Senator Bill Stouffer.
Thank you very much, and it is a real honor for me to be here today. I want to first thank Tom and Kelly for their vision of starting what they've done here in La Plata. My understanding, this is just the beginning of possibly $100 million investment here in Northeast Missouri, and that's going to be a tremendous boost for the economy. We also want to congratulate Chris for his milestone of the millionth mile, plus being sober, and that probably is bigger than anything that's going on, to change your life and look forward to what's coming in the future. Also, I haven't had a chance to welcome the Train Web and Train Party in town, and I really appreciate their vision in both Tom and them to look at what small town Missouri can be. To think about moving from California to La Plata, that's a big deal. And but what it does say is something that my office has been working on from the time I was started, is that if you have communications, if you've got high-speed communications, fiber, then you can. It doesn't matter where you are or where you work, as long as you got a chance to get on the World Wide Web. It doesn't matter where you are, and this proves that. As chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee, we continue to work to develop a full system. I think rail is going to be an integral part of that. As I was sitting here waiting, I think we had 3 or 4 freight trains go by. It's still an integral part of the economy. The country has always had a love for rail. It was rail that pulled the East and West Coast together. It was rail that got us into the mountains and pulled ore and lumber and what have you out. Rail has always had this mystique that Americans have always admired, and this investment here is going to further that, allow folks that really love the rail and give them an opportunity to come and celebrate that. I think there's an opportunity we might have the National Amtrak Museum here. All these things will contribute to the well-being of Northeast Missouri, as well as it provides jobs. It brings tourism in here, and it allows us to have a high quality of life out here without going through the big city pains that you do in some of the more populous areas. So it's a real pleasure for me to be here. I want to congratulate everybody involved, congratulate La Plata, and look forward to the future. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody out there that would like to say anything? Because now's your opportunity. If not, I think we're gonna, if you want to mill around here, I mean, this observation point is open to the public, especially the guest of the Depot Inn. But anyhow, you're welcome to mill around, watch some trains, and we have a train radio that is hooked onto a solar system. We'll hook it back up. We unhooked it so it wouldn't be real noisy today. But otherwise, we're gonna make our way back up to the Depot Inn, and we're gonna have a barbecue, and everybody's welcome to attend the barbecue.
Oh, I want to say one more thing. And there's one more person I'd like to thank out here, and that would be Tom Anderson. I'm calling him Peterson. It's cheap trick in my brain. I'm sorry. Tom Anderson, who designed these great T-shirts and the various colors, and that we're all wearing, and this thing. So thank you, Tom. Oh, okay.
Thanks for being here.
Hi.
There you go.
Okay, now you put it down.
That's cool. Looking to the future. That could be interesting. Oh, it popped out. Put the camera down.
I was going to take a chance.
Got it. Do you mind if I just so then we can save time?
Yes, you may.
Sweet.
Thanks.
Okay.
Beverly, here. Thank you.
And you don't have to.
By the way, that's the most attention he's had to his work.
Boy, you're there. I'm going to do the same thing. Okay. You can put it down and I'll put it down.
Okay. Oh, it's microphone.
Yeah, I got you a little late. We got back to you right away. Yeah, I can them. I'd like to get a quick one with you.
Okay.
Sure. All right. You can do a lot worse than a cheap trick on
Okay, Chris, can I get you to say your name and spell it for me, first of all?
I'm Chris Guenzler, Guenzler.
So where are you originally from?
Santa Ana, California.
Okay. And you explained it briefly up there, but can you tell me again the story of your first train ride, how you started on the railroad?
Okay, the first train ride, my brother had moved to Pocatello, Idaho for 5 years so he could get his seniority. At which time he asked me to come up, so I did. The trip up to Ogden, Utah was with the Union Pacific engineer who knew how to handle a short passenger train. So he accelerated in and out of the curve, so we got there 45 minutes early. Coming back, on the other hand, we got outside of Las Vegas on a 75-degree day, and the entire air conditioning went out on the Amfleet train. Needless to say, the conditions inside there, those cars heat up really fast when there's no air conditioning. So I had removed my shirt to stay warm, and then one of the other passengers saw this, and he removed his, and then had all the men remove their shirts. At which time a big-chested woman decided, well, if they can do this, I can do that. So she removed her top. And then, of course, the guy being who he is, he stands up and says, well, if you can do that, I can do that, drops his pants and takes off his pants and gets all the other guys to do it. And then that was followed by the big-chested woman standing up saying, if you can do that, I can do that. They took that out. She had all the women did it, so now we're sitting in there in bras and panties. At which time the conductor comes in telling us we're violating all sorts of rules. We tell him to knock off, to cool down the train. He gets his elder, cool down the train. He goes away. The young Santa Fe crew gets on the train. After we get read the riot act one more time and we tell him to cool down the train, he gets his senior conductor, who then comes up with an idea that he will open every door on the train if we all stay seated. As he did that, a nice breeze came blowing through the train, and those clothes couldn't have been put on any quicker. At which time then they said you can have free drinks in the lounge car. We all did that, and we all managed to get to Los Angeles in one piece.
How many years ago was that?
That was 1980.
Okay. And when did you start your journey toward 1,000,000 miles?
Well, basically that first trip.
Where all have you been?
Every mile of the Amtrak system, at least twice. Every inner city mile in Canada. Trains in all 50 states. Copper Canyon 5.5 times in some other places in Mexico.
Do you see, what's the right direction? Do you see yourself as an inspiration?
I see myself in an inspiration basically from the fact that I've remained sober, because that story is linked all over the world on the internet. But I also see myself as an inspiration to train riders everywhere, because when you write about it, people find out what really goes on the trains, and they can see the scenery and the stories, and there's nothing like it when somebody says, I feel like I'm riding the train with you. Or in one case where the president of Y Pass the Yukon emails me after he saw my story and said, I just felt like I got off of my own train. So it's very satisfying.
Did this begin as a ride to stay sober, or did it kind of happen along the way?
Well, I had been drinking up until about January 1995. The first goal I ever had was to finish the Amtrak system. which happened right after I did that. But when I had put myself into treatment to learn what I was doing to myself, I then had to set some goals in treatment, and one of the goals was, okay, I'll go ride the Amtrak system, and the counselor says that doesn't have anything to do with drinking. So I said, okay, I'll go go back through every state I had ever drank in, which was 43 states at that point. So in the process of doing that, I finished the Amtrak system. Then the next thing was to finish the Amtrak system sober by going back through all those 43 states, or 37 states, excuse me. And then I had finished that on day 1,000 of my sobriety, and then I did a nice trip up through the Northeast in fall colors. So then the next goal after that, okay, well, let's go up, and it started out to reclaim the miles in Canada I had drank on, because there's a story on my website called Oh Canada, or How I Drank My Way Across Canada. So I then went up to Canada and started to reclaim Canada, and as I started to do that, the next goal then became to ride all the intercity miles in Canada. When I got done with that, then it was ride a train in all 50 states. And doing that, South Dakota was the one that was going to pose the biggest problem because there was no Amtrak service into it. But then the Milwaukee Road 261 group up in Minneapolis had been running Burlington Northern and Santa Fe employee specials. And the Camrail Club up in Omaha had a trip that went 3 days from North Kansas City to Minneapolis. So the first day we went from North Kansas City to Lincoln, and the second day, of all places, we went to Sioux Falls. And to make my grand entrance into South Dakota, they had offered on a 90-degree day, 90% humidity day you guys love in the Midwest, cab rides in the engines for $50. And I said, I don't think so. Then the guy looked at me and said, how about $20 in the air-conditioned diesel? So I went into the diesel, and the guy said, well, just do whatever the engineer does. If he blows his whistle, you blow your whistle. If he rings your bell, you ring your bell. Well, we made the most noisiest entrance in the Sioux Falls, South Dakota in their history. So that's how I got that state. And then I finished the 50 states by going to Hawaii and then riding a train on the old Hawaiian Railroad that used to be on Oahu. So that took care of that. And at that point, it then became realistic to think I could do 1 million miles. And the funny thing was to time it exactly so I could get to that bridge. Last Saturday morning, I had to ride 9/10 of a mile on the Irvine Park Railroad. And then I had to plan how to get it right so I could leave Santa Ana to hit it right at the bridge. And we actually managed to do it, so that's why we're here today. 1 million miles passed.
What is your family's reaction?
My mom's extremely proud. My brother, the Amtrak agent, can't believe it, that it's finally here. And the rest of the family is just really proud. My dad, unfortunately, passed away before I finished Canada. And probably the one thing I regretted was I didn't finish Canada a month sooner, so he could have seen the pictures of Agawa Canyon in the winter. Because he used to love seeing my pictures.
I was gonna say, how do you feel?
I feel it's incredible. It's been an incredible day so far. You know, it's like when I finished Canada, I was in the front of a locomotive going 30 miles an hour, and they laid on the horn for me, and that was it. You know, maybe some moose or something heard it. But today, you know, I had a lot of friends with me on that train, and everybody was taking pictures and everything, so it's really well documented. And, you know, it was an incredible feeling to finally accomplish it and get it over. And the question I immediately got asked was, will you go for 2 million? And I said, yeah, I think so.
Is that what's next for you?
Yeah, that's probably what's next for me. You know, I work at a junior high school in Santa Ana, so I don't make great money. You know, somebody wants to come and sponsor me so I can go to Europe or something, I wouldn't say no to it. I'd like to go to Australia and ride trains there. It seems like a fascinating place to go, and South Africa, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I haven't met a train I haven't liked.
All right, anything else you'd like to add?
Well, just thank you to everybody in northeastern Missouri for putting up with me today. Oh, the website is www.trainweb.org/Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll unhook you.
Okay, you may
We'll
unhook
free
me.
you. Oh, here.
Don't kill each other.
There we go.
I like you both.
Chris, do you have any of your cards? So that they'll be sure to put your website on there.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I got the last. You guys get the last.
Thank you.
Oh, fabulous.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
How you doing?
Oh, good. Did I talk to you on the?
That was Bill Peterson, I think, that spoke to you on the earlier
Yeah,
phone
when we
interview.
were driving down the highway.
And I actually, Guenzler.
Guenzler, yeah. It's
I'm going to pronounce it correctly.
Yeah, it's
All
a German
That's
name.
how we go with it, Guenzler. Okay. Well, I'm going to reiterate a couple of those questions. We won't go through the story.
Thank you.
But first off, I understand, okay, this all started, your fascination with riding the rails started with that trip you're visiting your brother back in the day. And what's made
No, I'm trying to figure out.
kept the passion up?
Well, actually, the fascination for railroads happened when I was a little kid. I apparently was born here, and my mom used to stroll me down to the tracks when the trains go by, hoping I could smile, and I just was all smiles. And she finally took me down to the Santa Ana train station, put me right by the engine, and the engineer blew off, and I didn't flinch. So right there, she knew her son had a hearing problem, and that. So I'd always been fascinated by trains. But that first trip really started kind of, okay, well, that was fascinating to go that way to Pocatello, and then my brother kind of got to the point where he was saying, I'm only going to pick you up one way. So then it was up to Portland and across, or this way and across. So it started to get me to other places which were fascinating. I mean, train travel is the greatest way to see America.
And you have done it quite a lot. In fact, I heard the Amtrak person today reference that you've hit pretty much every rail track they have.
I've been over every mile of the Amtrak system at least twice.
That's impressive. And then you've set other goals along the years, and that includes one related to sobriety. And what role does the rails play along that line?
Well, when I first got sober, the biggest concern I had, because I used to drink heavily on the train, was could I possibly still take a train and train? So one Saturday morning after I'd get done at the treatment center, I actually got on a train. Well, I went to the lounge car, and now I'm sober, and what's the first thing out of my mouth when I see the lounge car? I say, give me a screwdriver, and I said, going, what did I just say? And he said, screwdriver, well, give me one of those without the vodka. And so I did a little trip with the Fullerton. Okay, I could do that. Then I thought, well, maybe I could go further down the line and try it. So I did that. And I was at the Del Mar station the last night it was ever open, and I was talking to the agent, and he said, basically, why don't you practice road G? And I said, well, what's road G? And he says, well, that's what all the railroad employees have to follow. Hey, you're not allowed to drink while you're doing your duty, and just apply that to the rest of your life. So I did. And by the time I was done drinking, it was like I had had enough. Enough was enough was enough. So it wasn't anything, too difficult to do.
A couple other questions. First off, your impressions when the train pulled into the plate today and you looked out there at the depot. What was your first thoughts there?
Well, I poked my head out just to see, and I went back to the guy saying, there's a mob at the depot. And then getting off to the drums, that was incredible.
And what did you think of the original song they presented in your honor, and as well as the lookout point they built for you here?
Well, the fire song, I've actually heard Carl Palmer, who ended up in Emerson, Lake and Palmer, playing that when he was with the Crazy World of Arthur Brown way back when. So I was familiar with it, and they did an excellent job playing it. I was impressed. But when I saw them unveil that blew me away, because now I have something named after me, and who would have ever thought? The kid who couldn't talk well would have something named after him. So it's a pretty unique thing.
One last question for those in the current generation that maybe have never traveled by train before. What would you say to them?
I would say get on a train and go explore America. It's a fantastic place.
That's what I need, man.
Thanks,
Chris. Cheap Trick Rules, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Especially the first 3 hours.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
Excellent. And you mentioned the world of Arthur Brown. I'm like, too bad this is not a music interview. We can go all day.
Oh, you and I could have talked out here all day about music.
But that was, they took that original song and they they applied your story into it.
Yeah.
though. That was kind of neat, man.
Yeah.
I thought that was a neat thing
yeah,
to do.
it was really fantastic.
Well, that's awesome.
I want to know the song. Can I get a copy?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean that was a cool song. I want to know who did it.
And then, do you have a card? I know you took the last one, but as long as it
Here's
has,
his part.
that's all I need.
Now, hang on, I may have another one. Let me go into the wallet.
He was thinking ahead.
No, I know whether it's a hold it. I know whether it's a bunch of.
What I want to do is have a day trip leaving Reno every day. You don't even have to put anti-graffiti paint on that.
Not out here.
Help me out, buddy.
Never hit it.
Sobriety story?
Yeah, and I never read it. My mother was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But good news now. She drank a fifth of whiskey a day.
Yeah, that's what I.
And
That's
good
what I
news.
was in.
She's 90 years old and she's in good health.
Yeah.
So,
Well, what was really incredible was my friend Jeff Hartman, who originally was the webmaster. He puts that counter up there. So I'm going, okay. So it's up there and it's doing its thing. Then I start getting emails from somebody saying, "Would you please write the story of it?" So I said, so I did.
you know what I did was I emailed that to everybody I knew. I thought, what a great success story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
just
mean that
emailed
story is
everybody.
linked all over the world.
It's a good one. You know,
And the problem is when people
are inspiration.
when people beat something, you know, number one, I think the first thing you have the right to do is laugh at it, you know. But you know,
Well, I mean, even as far as being humor, yeah.
yeah, I mean you have to because you know you look at the dumb things I did when I was an alcoholic. You know, I would, you know, sneak whiskey in through my bedroom window. You know, I would vomit out the window. I would piss out the window. I mean, that's not a normal thing. I would be driving to work hungover, and I'd have to pull off the road and throw up. Now, I get sober. I don't see many people pulling off the road to throw up. I mean, so that's kind of a weird thing, you know?
I know, because like my father, I used to carry my mother into the bed.
Yeah.
And so I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's a very addictive.
Great success.
Yeah, I mean, when you're under control of that demon alcohol or demon whatever, it just narrows your focus so tightly that this is a true story. I would drive from work every day to the liquor store by my house. I'd drive down Main Street in Santa Ana. My vision was so narrow, I passed like 22 liquor stores when I started counting them after I got sober, that I could have stopped at. But because I was so focused in, you know, you had to go to that one. That's what an addiction does. It just controls your total life. And then you live this vicious circle. Yeah. You live this vicious circle where, you know, you wake up, you come to in the morning. You don't wake up, you come to. And then you're hungover, so you're lucky if you have a good day if you can keep breakfast down. You have a horrible day if that comes right back up. So then I'd go through work, sometimes having to go into the bathroom at work and whatever. Then, of course, you're working with the kids, and from about lunch on, the only thing you can think of is the next drink. So you do that, you come home, go into the room, start drinking, pass out again, and then start it over the next day. I was living like that cycle for about 3 years. When I quit drinking, I weighed 125 pounds. Yeah, I mean, you could put Mick Jagger next to me, and Mick would have looked fat.
Because you were getting no nutrition.
Yeah, no nutrition. I mean, I was on a complete liquid diet.
And alcohol's empty calories. So.
Yeah. I mean,
It's a great
you want
success
to
story,
lose weight? I don't recommend drinking heavily. No, don't do that.
That was just an amazing story. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
You know,
thanks.
coming from a mother who had problem drinking, I knew exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and of course the science teacher who did the experiment, she saw me off in Fullerton the other night.
Oh, good.
She ran up at the last minute, and you know it was so good to see her. And she goes, You know, Chris, I knew all along you would get the 1,000,000 miles.
Yeah?
Because I used to say, you know, I don't know. Because that's, yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of adventures to various places. And like, you know, it was coming down to it, so I had to watch what I was going to do, you know. And so on the last trip we did, we were in Indiana. We had parked the car up at Tifton. So we could drive, Chris and I could drive from there to the airport, remember this? And so we start heading down to the fairgrounds, and number one, Bart's schedule was for a 25-mile-an-hour run. But because we had a freight car, they would only run the train 10 miles an hour. Then the engine craps out for an hour and a half. So we're on the train coming back, and we have got to get to the airport. So finally, you know, I had told the volunteers at the museum. One of them drove us back up to the car. I mean, that's just typical of small town America, you know. You wouldn't have that in California. No. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's just like, you know, I had been up at the Isaac Walden Inn up in Montana. And, you know, you rent the car to go out and railfan when you're up there, take the train up, rent the car. And you can be along Highway 2 just waiting for a train to come on. Everybody stops and makes sure you're okay.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Southern California?
No.
They flip you off
Well,
for
it's the same thing
pulling
in
off the
the
road.
East,
Yeah.
New York, Philadelphia, same.
Yeah.
Well, Chris,
Well,
congratulations.
thanks. Glad you're here.
You need it.
Cool shirt.
Thanks.
Make sure you thank Tom
Well,
for
yeah,
that.
I had to cover up my Norfolk Southern shirt.
I like Norfolk and Southern.
That's right.
They treat me very well.
That's what I retired from. 41 years.
Cool. California's that far. All right.
Hi, Richard.
Hi there. How are you?
No, just the blue one.
Blue one? Okay, we'll take that.
Probably Steve. Chris was me.
Yeah, the green one, Steve.
Yeah, look, I got the handwriting.
All right. There you go.
You got it.
Cool.
I don't know who that is.
You guys have a good. How long you gonna be here?
2 nights.
2 nights. Have a good stay.
Thank you. Thanks again for coming out.
Oh, glad to do it.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks. Appreciate it.
That's one of
Okay,
them.
I will. So, we'll be calling on you. I know. That's what we're there for.
Thanks a
We'll
lot.
be there too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well.
Not a shirt, yeah.
Because I was stuck there for 6 hours and she was so nice. I said, hey, honey.
Yeah.
She stops her car and I go, here. She goes, what's that for? I go, for being so nice to me when I was stuck here for 6 hours.
Very good. I bet you met a lot of nice people.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You're first. Good to smoke. Good.
Yes, I will. Said it. You want it high or low?
I don't
Okay, we got it. That's what I love about kids. I don't care.
He says that all the time. Sometimes it's not good.
Unfortunately.
What do you pick up?
Capital Waves. Oh, yeah. Get on the Pittsburgh and pick the 82.
Sorry, wait a minute. Go for it.
There you go. You get the complete one. Let's try this. It's my
There you
birthday.
Just take that.
I ain't sure you teach you where you was at today.
Yes, you can.
I just started into it.
Has the whole story on
Look
it.
at here. Look at here.
I'm not good at it, but it was fun.
It takes time. Because I have a friend who started quilting.
Yeah, it's the exact location for it. You're very welcome. One more. Never enough.
Here we go. Oh, this is Chris,
Yeah.
I made you some. The boys want to give you something. Now stand there till we get your picture.
Oh, okay.
Here.
Well, hang on. Let's grab the cards like I'm taking them from you. Okay. There we go. A photo op. Everybody smile. Cool. Now I can read them. I got a whole bunch of these in my bags for my kids at work. It's tomorrow on Wet Sock Trains. I'm going to read about 10 of them. Oh, that is so cool. Thanks. 1,000 years of video games? Cool. Oh, that is so neat. Thank you. I like your train too. It's almost it's better than that one. Cool. Thank you.
Do you eat and breathe and sleep trains?
Me? No, actually I don't.
Yeah, first I'm gonna
Oh.
get another cookie.
Sorry.
No, then open them.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Winston.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You could be a director. Let's see. Oops, yeah, that's the way.
Yeah. Didn't have those.
What else would you like me to do? Stand on my head next?
Oh, you did?
Oh, we're for Plata. We broke the 1,000,000-mile mark at 8:26 Central Time this morning. All right, we broke the 1,000,000 miles at the Missouri River Bridge at 8:26 Central Daylight Time this morning. Well, tell them thank you and tell them I miss them all. And tell them I'll see you guys on Thursday. Yeah, we're having a blast. There's a train viewing platform here that's now named after me. A train viewing platform. Yeah, so that was a big surprise. Yeah. All right, you take care. Bye-bye. All right, that takes care of that one.
Was she in class? Is that all the kids?
That's all the kids cheering. Those kids love me. Okay, let's go Mrs. Angle and do her. Get her first thing in the morning here.
Mrs. Angle?
Yeah, she was a lady who came to
Oh, okay.
saw
I was
me.
thinking like the mother of Kurt Angle.
This is an actual Mexican mixed train we took from Juarez down to Casas Grande, where we would the next day pick up our own private little chichu here. And then we would come up to the interchange where the Boss State Chihuahua Railroad would come down with their open car, and we would put two little trains together here. And then we were the last revenue train ever to run over that railroad. And that was one of the original FM demonstrators.
California man marked a major milestone in La Plata, Missouri today, boarding a train in California on Wednesday and arriving in La Plata this morning. Chris Guenzler became the only known person in the country to have traveled 1 million miles as a rail passenger. He began traveling by train in 1980 and has traveled through all 50 states, Canada, and parts of Mexico, riding every mile of the Amtrak system. Recovering alcoholic, Guenzler says that he successfully achieved and maintained sobriety through his love of the railroad, and as such sees himself as an inspiration not only for overcoming alcoholism.
I also see myself as an inspiration to train riders everywhere, because, you know, when you write about it, people find out what really goes on the trains, and they can see the scenery and the stories, and, you know, there's nothing like it when somebody says, I feel like I'm riding the train with you.
For more on Guenzler's travels, you can visit his website at www.trainweb.org/Chris. Talk about tons of sand in the Midwest. It can be one thing for one Heartland city. It's just about
What's that website again?
We'll loop it. www.trainweb.org/Chris. www.trainweb.org/Chris. www.trainweb.org/Chris.
That number again.
Well, you know, Richard did that to Mona George on his show.
Million Man March, what about the Million Mile Ride?
KOMU's Julie Mercer tells us about one man's 27-year railroad journey and how it's an inspiration to others. Trains roared through La Plata's train station, but this one carried a special rider setting a record for both the town and the country.
I haven't met a train I haven't liked.
When Chris Guenzler arrived at the Amtrak station in La Plata, he had finished traveling 1 million miles by train, a fun milestone, but part of a sober goal. Guenzler stopped drinking in 1995, and riding trains became a way to keep alcohol out of his life.
I see myself in an inspiration basically from the fact that I've remained sober, because that story is linked all over the world on the internet. But I also see myself as an inspiration to train riders everywhere.
He's quite an inspiration, and he's only 49 years old, and he's traveled 1 million miles.
Although Guenzler has reached his goal, he has no plans to stop riding trains.
If somebody wants to come and sponsor me so I can go to Europe or something, I wouldn't say no to it. But I'd like to go to Australia and ride trains there. Seems like a fascinating place to go, and South Africa, etc., etc., etc.
To mark the event, this hill will be the Chris Guenzler Million Mile Lookout Point. Julie Mercer, KOMU News, La Plata. Guenzler keeps track of his travels on a website. If you want to go to his website, you can go to our website, KOMU.com, and click on the links and numbers section.
Great. And that won't work. So finally, I talked to some of the museum people, and finally one of them volunteered to, when we got back to their museum site, to get off the train with us, and he drove us back up to get the car, and then we made our way back to the airport, and I actually got a picture of the train going north, and they dropped the freight car so they could be a passenger train.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so that worked out. You know, my motto is everything works out if you let it.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's very true.
And you know, you don't get upset, you just go with the flow. So anyway.
Yeah. Sometimes you can do that. Okay, we have something from our buddy Gene from Phoenix, and he says, just think, you're already at, I'm going, where do you get this number from? 1,609,344 kilometers. So you're closer to the 2 million than you thought.
Well, you know, that was, the kilometers got put up there from the response from one reader from Mexico, one reader from Venezuela, and a reader in South South Africa,
Mm-hmm.
who said, Chris, what would your miles transfer? Would you mind changing it? So I did that. Then I immediately got my response back saying, oh, that's too bad. You already passed 1 million kilometers. That would have been so nice to have celebrated it. And I, joked backly. I said, excuse me, but in the United States, we do miles per
Right.
hour.
Yeah.
Miles. So I just keep it up there for those people.
Right, and that's good. I mean, it's you can't keep track of every standard, but in this particular case, I think the only standards there are in the world is miles and kilometers.
Yeah,
right?
so when we hit the 2 million miles and kilometers, maybe we'll do a party or something for it.
Right. You'll
and
have to,
we can go to Fullerton again and have a little party, and all the kilometer people can fly in.
There you go.
And we could have a get together with all our kilometer friends.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay, checking LTT at letstalktrains.us if you want to give us a holler here. Uh-oh, we got another response from our buddy George. About 200 yards of the 1 million miles was over the Monon.
Yeah. No, actually, George, you forget that.
Chris, I read some of his travel logs at TrainWeb. I found out about TrainWeb. My first travel log was one of those trips with the family going up the Coast Starlight. And there's another thing like TrainWeb back here in the Midwest, and maybe Cyber Railroad or something like that. And I wrote a travel log. It was on a word processor, and I sent 4x6 pictures with it, and they posted it. And then that was in '96, I believe. And that's about when TrainWeb started. And then I found out, looking over the internet for other train-related stuff, and found TrainWeb and found that it was in Fullerton, which was exciting. I live in Placentia, just 20 minutes from Fullerton Station, where TrainWeb had its office. And I read some of their travel logs, and Chris had some there, and I learned that they said, anybody wants to write a travel log, we'll post it. So I began writing them and posting them, and Steve gave me my own email address, carl@trainweb.com. And one time when I was turning in a story, and I'd seen Chris in that same front page of him in the Acela car, and I knew somewhat what he looked like. And when I was turning in a story at the TrainWeb station, he came in. This was an upstairs on the second floor of the Fullerton station where their office was. He came in, quickly passed, do you have my story up yet, to Steve, because we weren't posting our own at that time. And then he left, and I'm sure we were introduced, but the thing that I remember from it at the time, how much younger he was than I am, and not 20, maybe 15 years younger, and how much younger he was than he appeared in that picture on the Acela. But that was just my first impression, and I knew he'd posted all these travel logs. So eventually, Steve had Chris and I go on a trip together, and one of the early times I remember Chris is he told me about, we began to meet at other times and so forth, he told me about a photo run by called Steam in Winter by the Nevada Northern Railway. And he said, asked me, would you like to go up? And I thought, wow, to Nevada from Southern California, I don't know. And he said, oh, it's going to be great, and it's very inexpensive. It's only, I think, $40, and we get a chase trains and beyond steam trains and ride in a caboose for warmth, and then shoot this train on photo run-bys. And I really liked steam, so I went on that trip with him. And we've been friends ever since, and he even allowed me to take two of my friends along, semi-rail fans, along on that trip. So that's really when I got to know him. email him his telephone number, and we talked more since then. But that's how it happened, when basically he invited me along to go on a photo shoot trip.
Great. It's a perfect time to take a...
Well, it's inspirational. He said in his interview for the local TV people here that he felt he was an inspiration to train travelers and to those trying to remain sober from alcoholism, and that's true. He is an inspiration. He is accomplishing 1 million miles. It's just hard to conceive that. I know he does a lot of train traveling, but 1 million miles, and he's done it being only 49 years old. I look at that like that would take a couple of lifetimes to get that accomplished, and he's done it, calculated the other day, 37,000 miles a year. And he works as a special ed aide in Santa Ana Junior High, and he works, and I was a teacher, so we have a 180-day or 185-day work year. Boy, you start averaging that out, that is a lot of miles a day. I doubt if there's many people that commute every day that have the miles that he's accumulated. But like here in 3 days and 2 nights, you get 2,000 miles coming to La Plata from Fullerton. So I've just never added it up. I noticed Steve Grandi added his up, and he's 250,000, I believe. And even that, it just doesn't happen unless you are...
Chris, the first time I met Chris was when he came to TrainWeb's grand opening ceremony when TrainWeb moved to La Plata. And at that point in time is when I learned about his 1 millionth mile trip, upcoming trip. And then since then, Chris has come by a couple of times, and each time he stayed in the Pullman room, and or Pullman suite rather. And I think it's a very unique event for him to pick La Plata as his final destination on this 1 millionth mile milestone trip. And so we're very fortunate and very happy that he chose this area to make this trip. And we hope that a lot of people will come here and visit we also named or dedicated our observation point to him, and it will, once we can do the rail resort, there's going to be a 2-story tall observation lookout tower that will be heated and air conditioned, have indoor bathrooms, and quite a few other neat features, and that will be the Chris Guenzler 1 millionth mile lookout point.
Well, what I did was, when I had goals in, when I put myself into treatment, I had said my goal was to do the Amtrak system, and it had nothing to do, my counselor said it had nothing to do with drinking. So I then said, how about if I go reclaim every state I ever drank in, which was 37 states. So on the way to finishing up the Amtrak system, I gradually reclaimed states as I went through. Then actually doing the Amtrak system, I went through the rest of the states Amtrak served that I never had been on trains on, so thus I never drank in them. So then it came up to the last trip was going across, with a trip previously to that was when I had to do Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And then the final trip was when I had to do between Kansas City and St. Louis, and then from Winter Park, Florida down to Miami, which I finished on my day 1000th of my sobriety. Well, with the story of my sobriety on the website, that's linked all over the world, so that gave me a good sense that if somebody has a drinking problem and reads that, and that maybe shines the light to their mind that they have a drinking problem and they stop, then that story did some good. So that gives me a sense of personal accomplishment right there every time I see somebody clicking on it. Because on the counter I can see what people are looking at. So every time I look at it and I see sobriety, you kind of wonder, okay, who's reading that story this time? Is it gonna be? And then you get the emails every once in a while, somebody says, I read your story and that's helped me. And, you know, that's great that my website can do that for certain people. Just as people who read my story and ride trains, they love the fact that, okay, if Chris stays in the hotel and he says this is an okay hotel, I can stay in that hotel. Because, like, I wouldn't recommend anybody staying in that Hotel Roosevelt hotel where I spent the night in Al Capone's bed. I wouldn't want anybody to stay there. But the only hotel on my webpage I say do not stay at was the flagship hotel in Atlantic City, where everything in that hotel was wrong and nobody in their right mind should stay there. So that's what. And then there's people who like to copy my trips. And that's always interesting when you get people saying, yeah, I took the same trip you did and stayed at the same places, and I wouldn't have stayed there if you hadn't been there. So it's rewarding that way.
Has anyone came up to you and told you their stories of sobriety?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's always interesting to, you know, have somebody walk up to you and say, you know, hey, I read your story on your sobriety, and you help me, or they start telling you their own sobriety story, and you know, I sit there and I'll listen to them all, because by hearing somebody tell me their story, it's like being at your own little AA meeting, because an AA meeting can just be 2 people. You know, it doesn't have to be an organized meeting, so it works out okay.
And so is there any word from the Guinness World Book of Records or anything like that?
Not that I've heard. But, you know, people have said they're going to call them, so if they do, that's fine. I don't care about it.
So, what are foamers? Can you explain about foamers?
Foamers is a term that people use to describe rail fans who basically, I'll give you the perfect example of a foamer. A foamer is somebody that will sit at Fullerton, California, for instance, will have a pad in their hand, will write all this information down about trains, and then you ask them, what do you do with it, and they don't know. And then they're the type of people who will mark down every train that goes by, and then you ask them, well, have you ever been on a train? No. Why not? I might miss something. And I'm going, that's kind of odd when you think about it, because if you're out, you know, like if you came from LA to Chicago, just think how many trains you would pass on the way here. You know, you saw it, right? Wouldn't that be more of an experience than sitting there with a pad in front of a station riding and never getting on a train? That's what a foamer is, versus somebody like me who rides trains and does other things besides trains. That's the difference.
So they're, in a way, they're just really hardcore rail fans?
They're really hardcore rail fans that, you know, come to the same spot every day. And like you say, you ask them what they do with their notes and they don't know. I kind of, you know, having the mystique of being the Million Mile Man, it's kind of unique. Having something named after me yesterday blew me away. Because, you know, I thought for a second, man, who in their right mind would name something after Chris Guenzler? Then I'm standing there and I'm hearing a song written about me, and it's like, who would write a song about Chris Guenzler? You know, why? But, you know, it's just, you know, it's kind of cool. You know, signing shirts, you know, that was a lot of fun. And so if it's a celebrity for just a moment in my life, that's a great thing. I think everybody should have the experience of signing things once in their life for people you don't know and probably will never see again. You know? So I think it's a magical thing.
So, how do you know Richard?
Richard and I, we go way back. We actually go back to a club he started called the San Diegan Club. In the San Diegan Club, we would either take train trips or we would meet up at a particular station and go have lunch and just talk trains. And that's how we met, and that's where, you know, Steve and Ray used to come to those meetings too. And he had a good little following, and then unfortunately when he started doing Let's Talk Trains, that group fell apart. But he's been happily doing Let's Talk Trains for the last 5 years. So that's when I met Richard way back about 10 years ago, I would say.
And that's how you met, did you met Carl?
Well, Carl I met through TrainWeb, and then we've taken several trips together, and he's a blast to travel with because he's got all of his little gadgets. And I'm not a gadget guy. You know, I don't need to know, like, with GPS where I am every second. I know where I'm at. But, like, we did a trip to the Nevada Northern, and we drove up to East Ely, you know, which is a pretty lonely drive, and he had his GPS on the dashboard, and we'd be, you know, driving and figure, okay, we got 3 more hours to go to where we're going. All of a sudden, the GPS would go off the road, and it would be going over here. No, the road would be going this way, and we would be going this way on the GPS. And then it finally dawned on all of us that when the road map was meant, that's where the road went, and now they built the new road, and that's where the GPS is on the new road. So it was, you know, really fun, and I would have never known that had Carl not had his GPS. So he's got a very good technical knowledge of computers, something I don't have. I mean, if, you know, people a lot of time will think, well, Chris Guenzler, you must be this fantastic computer person because you got this website and you can do all this stuff. And I'm user friendly. You know, when it works, it's great, but when it doesn't work, I'm user klutz. And you know, that's all it is. It's like when you write stories, for instance. You know, you go to put it up, and then you put it up, and then half the story's in bold because you put a P instead of a B. You know, you go back, or the worst ones is when pictures don't show up. And now you got to go back in, and somebody who's really computer savvy would immediately see the picture not there and know why. Versus somebody like me, we got to go back into the story and say, okay, why is this happening? And that's the struggles of doing stories when the bad things happen. When I do stories and the good things happen and they come out fine the first time, that's fantastic. And then with my stories, Winston Walker, who you met on the training, he's there, he proofreads all of them. So he takes my very not so great at times English, or using the wrong tenses and everything else, or my wonderful mistakes, and cleans them all up. That makes me look like a far better writer than I really am. But actually, doing the stories, I have become a far better writer than I used to be. So anyway.
And do you upload those stories yourself?
Yeah, I do them all myself. I had a webmaster, Jeff Hartman, who used to do them, and then he got way too busy. And he finally sent me all the directions to do it. And, it's a lot more satisfying when you're doing it yourself. And then I started adding pictures to all the stories. And that was a challenge to do it, but I did it. And, you just attack the challenges as they come along and do
them. So what was it when you saw yourself on TV? What was it like seeing yourself on TV?
That was really interesting last night when we got done with that. We all ran in there to watch it. I sat there and I was blown away. Because I guess yesterday you could have said it was the day when Chris Guenzler got blown away by a lot of things. Because, getting plaques and getting certificates and getting all that stuff. And, when we were on the train doing it, at the time, I thought, okay, good, it's finally over. The 1,000,000 miles is done. I don't have to, and keep having people ask, when are you going to do it? All this stuff, because this 1,000,000 mile thing actually snowballed into a major event for some people. Not me, necessarily. Because if I could have just had gone off on my own and got my 1,000,000 miles very quietly and done it, I would have. But, I knew Steve and Ray wanted it done in a big fashion, and back when we were here for TrainWeb's grand opening when they moved, I had dinner over at the Red Rooster sitting next to the city manager, the quote mayor of La Plata, and he leaned over and said, would you consider doing your 1,000,000 miles here because it might help out our town? And I said, I'll think about it. And then it seemed like coming from Fullerton to here would be a logical thing to do because TrainWeb used to be in Fullerton and now it's here, and so that was no problem. And then just juggling the miles to make it work to get here was a little bit of a personal struggle because, 9/10 of a mile was doable. The one way I was figuring 1.7 wasn't, and it was just, or am I going to have to drive up to Pasadena and drive the Gold Line between stations and find one stop and then ride it and walk back? I mean, that's all, stupid it was becoming. But in the end, it all worked out and made a lot of people happy.
So, do you happen to know anything about the rail resort that's everyone's talking about, or?
When I was here back in I guess it was December, I looked at the plans and it looks like a very good project. And I can't wait to come back when it's all done to really enjoy it. I mean, I like the idea of being able to get in a train at the train station and ride a train to the depot end. I think that would be really cool. And of course now I'll go by my name viewing spot, every time I come by here now it's going to be like, hey, that's named after me, that's cool. So I can't wait for it all to be done and completed. Hope they can get it done ahead of schedule. Because I'm going to make this coming back here kind of a regular event at least once a year. Because I really like it here.
Coming back to La Plata?
Yeah, coming to the depot end. I like this place.
What do you like about the depot end?
I like the railroad theme about it. I like the Pullman suite. Every time I've stayed here, I've had that room. And, I make it a point to book early so I can always have that room. It's a place away from home I like.
I think that's all the questions I have.
Fantastic. I have no more questions. I'm all questioned now.
Oh, I bet you are.
I got one.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Which is pretty basic, which, even though it hasn't been answered yet, what exactly, if you could explain in a short while, what exactly is the appeal of the train to you? If you're talking to someone who's never been on a train, never seen the sense of why should I take a train, why not? Why shouldn't I be obsessed with cars or boats or planes instead?
Well, the mystique about the train is number one, the rocking and rolling the train gives you. There's not another form of transportation like it. Secondly, being able to eat in a dining car and having the world go by you. There's not a restaurant on the planet that can offer you that. And the thing about the dining car in it is, even if you go on the same route more than once, if you eat dinner at 5 o'clock, you're going to be seeing one view out of the window versus if you eat at 6 o'clock, for instance. 5 o'clock, you would be seeing the high plains coming into Raton. 6 o'clock, you would be going over Raton Pass and through the Raton Tunnel and down Raton Pass. 7 o'clock, you would be going fast running towards La Junta. So right there, you have 3 different views to having your meal. You can't get that anyplace else. The camaraderie of passengers on the train is unique because it's the only form of transportation. I've always said that when you get a trainload of people together for 3 days, it becomes like a family. And a lot of times you walk away from the train and you'll stay in contact with people. You don't get that on a bus or you don't get that on an airplane. You get in an airplane, how many times have you been on an airplane and you just sit in the seat and never talk to anybody? That's the common thing on airplanes. They are very anti-personal. Trains are very personal. You can sit down in a dining car and meet 3 complete strangers. That's a unique experience. You don't go into a restaurant and they seat you with 3 complete strangers. No, if you're a single person, you go in over there at the Red Rooster, they're going to sit you at the table all by yourself. They're not going to say, oh, by the way, you're going to have him, and him joining you tonight. So, it's a unique part of American culture. It's a throwback because, this country was built on train travel. And unfortunately, the days of jumping on an airplane are over because now you go through security and you go through puffers and all that great stuff, checking you for explosives, which you have to not enjoy, and taking off your shoes and everything else, and having your bags inspected 5 ways to no way, and if you don't answer one of the questions right, they pull you off for a secondary search, and it's absolutely horrible. You don't get that on a train. You just walk on the train with your stuff and off you go. So it's more of a freedom of travel.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me actually, just to go on.
Well, the thing that people don't realize is that when you make your reservation, your name goes through the FBI and Interpol computer. So if you are hot, they know about. They're waiting for you to get on.
The train.
Yeah, so there's this unseen security that happens that most passengers don't know about. The DEA watches for people who buy one-way tickets with large amounts of cash. So what are they doing? They're smuggling drugs. Versus if you pay cash and you do it, 3 months in advance, nobody's going to look at that. So that would be my answer. It's magical. It's a magical world of train travel.